Before we begin today's Katha, I feel that I first need to address its contents. Today's Katha deals with depression, withdrawal, and ultimately suicide. Let's be clear. Sati Maa is an expansion of Durga Maa, and as such, she is beyond reproach. Her actions in this Katha is very much meant to teach us a lesson. She is here to show us the weight of our bad decisions, the way it affects those around us, and the way their reactions can affect us. Mataji goes from curiosity to her first bad decision, then having to deal with the fallout of that decision. She goes into withdrawal, suffering alone and telling no one of her pain. She begins to see herself as irredeemable, and so asks Hari for a speedy demise. Then, from one bad decision, she goes into another, and so continuing the spiral into depression. Ultimately, she feels like she has reached bottom, and she gives up this body. I would ask that we consider in our own lives, have we said or done anything that might hurt someone? Can we treat those around us with greater care? And can we try to recognize the symptoms of depression as we see them? And can we consider forgiveness to those that have hurt us? As we begin today's Katha, I ask that you please remember that this is a drama meant to teach us how we should live. Jai Shri Ram. In India, there is a spot known as Prayag. It is a spot where the Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati rivers meet, and it is considered to be most holy. Here lives a great sage by the name of Bharadwaj. He has built his ashram at this site, and every year, in the holy month of Magh, which is January to February, the great saints and sages, troops of gods and demons, great men and demigods all come together to bathe in the holy waters and offer worship. Bharadwaj has the great blessing of hosting this holy gathering and reverently ensures that all guests are well taken care of. It is on one such occasion that, as his guests are preparing to leave, Bharadwaj approaches the great sage Yajnavalakji and holds on to his feet. He implores him, "O Prabhu, please dispel my ignorance. I have great doubts in my mind, but with you here, I know that you can help me to see clearly. Lord Shankara imparted the holy name of Rama to the dying souls in Kashi, those who seek the highest realm. There is a Rama who is the prince of Ayodhya. He slew Ravana and rescued Sita. But yet, there is a Rama who Shiva, the slayer of Tripura, repeatedly chants his name. Could this be the same Rama? Please, O great sage, clarify my doubts and make me see clearly." Yajnavalakji looked to Bharadwaj with a great smile and said, "I have heard of you. You are the servant of Shri Ram. There is no facet of him that you are ignorant of. However, you seek to hear the virtues of his story that has been hidden, so you come to me. The Lord's devotee is always happy to repeat his names and pastimes. So listen now as I relate to you the glorious story of Shri Ram." This very same question was posed by Mother Parvati to Lord Shiva. Once Lord Shiva wished to hear the Katha of Shri Ram. He, together with Sati Maa, who was a previous incarnation of Parvati Maa, visited sage Agastya. They spent many days there discussing the virtues of Shri Ram. The sage inquired of Lord Shiva about having perfect faith in Hari, and the Lord gladly shared this yoga. As they were leaving, Lord Shiva found that he had a great urge to see Sri Ram. He knew that the Lord had taken avatar in the form of Rama, and he himself was in exile in the Dandaka forest. In his mind, he conspired to see how he could visit with his Rama. Raghunath was distraught by the loss like a mortal man, for as Bhagavan, he too was playing the role of a human. The two brothers wandered through the forest in search of Mother Sita. Sri Ram, in his perfect role as a man, showed unmistakable signs of grief born of separation from his beloved. It was at this very moment that Lord Shiva saw his Lord. His heart and soul was enraptured. His eyes feasted on the vision of the Lord, his beauty and his majesty. But Lord Shankara knew that he needed to control his joy, for this was no time to expose Sri Ram as Bhagavan. He simply bowed his head to the passerby and went along his way, knowing that the joy in his heart would suffice. Sati again looked at Shankara, and she became even more perplexed. Shiva is Lord of the universe, she thought. He deserves adorations from all beings, gods, demons, and man. All the sages bow to him. Yet he bowed to that prince, as though he was the supreme God of truth, consciousness, and bliss. Is it possible that the all-pervading supreme eternal Bhagavan, who is beyond Maya, can he really take avatar as man? If this is Vishnu that I saw, he is omniscient like Shiva, then can he really wander like an ordinary man in search of his wife? But Shiva's word cannot be untrue, for he is all-wise and all-knowing. Lord Shiva saw the confusion in Sati's eyes. Even without speaking, he knew her mind. He said, "Sati, please do not entertain these doubts in your mind. Remember the Katha from sage Agastya. Have faith in the words spoken there to be true. Rama is the hero of the Raghu race. He is most revered by all sages and wise men. He is my own chosen deity. Do not doubt him." Lord Shiva made many attempts to alleviate her doubts, but to no avail. All his best arguments were useless because now she was silent. How could she know for sure? It was at this time that Lord Shiva, looking at Sati Maa, realized the elusive power of his Lord. He recognized that his Leela was afoot. At this, he smiled. He told her, "If you have doubts in your mind, then why not put the matter to a test? Please use your best judgment in sorting this out, so when you are done, all doubts will be alleviated. Go ahead. I will wait here under the shade of this banyan tree until you return." With this, Sati Maa was on her way. Lord Shiva looked at her with amusement and concern, thinking to himself, "If my best arguments could not convince her, then it would seem that the stars are adverse. No good could come of this." He realized, however, that whatever Sri Ram has ordained must come to pass. So why should he discuss this any further? Thinking this, he sat under the banyan tree in meditation, contemplating the form of his Lord. Sati Maa thought long and hard about what method she should employ to test Sri Ram. Finally, she had it. She would take on the guise of Sita Devi. Surely, he would be ecstatic to see his missing wife, and so he could never see through the ruse. She continued along the path where she had originally seen the Lord, and sure enough, there he was. Lakshmana saw her first. He stopped short. How could this be? How could Sita be here? But he dared not speak. Shri Ram, being Bhagavan himself, saw immediately through the ruse. He smiled, and with calm expressions and gentle tones, he said, Mataji Pranam. I bow to you with utmost respect. I am Rama, son of Dashrath. This is my brother Lakshman, and we are in search of my wife Sita, who has been abducted. Please tell me, Mataji, where is Shiva? And how is it that you are wandering the forest by yourself? At this, Sati was embarrassed. Shiva had tried to warn her, but she did not listen. What was she to tell him? Shri Rama knew her heart and decided to alleviate all doubts. As she walked, she could see Rama, Sita, and Lakshman. But how could this be? How could there be Sita? How could Rama be in front of her when she left him behind? She turned and turned again, but wherever she looked, there were the three, enthroned with multiple sages, siddhas, and demigods ministering to them. There too were many a Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, standing alongside the three, each in their splendorous form. Along with them were their consorts. She saw herself, Lakshmis and Saraswatis, standing along with their lords in matching splendor. She was awe-stricken at this sight, and with a heavy heart, she sunk to the ground, and with a quivering heart, she lost all consciousness. When she regained consciousness, it was all gone. All that she could see was Sri Ram and Lakshman looking at her with a confused expression. Without a word, she bowed to the feet of the Lord. She turned back to the direction of Lord Shiva and hurried along the way, contemplating what it is that she had just seen. Finally, here he was. He smiled and asked her, Well, how was it? How did you put him to the test? Tell me the whole truth. She thought back to her experience, and once again, in awe at the sight, she said, I made no trial of him, my lord. But like you, I simply paid my respects and left. I was confident that your word could not be false. At this time, by his divine power, Lord Shiva knew all that had actually happened. He bowed his head to the illusory power of Rama and knew that his power had put that lying speech into Sati's mouth. Lord Hari's will is invincible, he thought. With that, they continued along their way. However, Shiva became despondent, for Sati had taken the form of Sita. Therefore, because of her deceit, it would be adharmic to continue to treat her as his wife. To follow the path of adharma would mean that he will lose all for which he stands. Yet, Sati is too pure to be abandoned. Yet still, it would not be proper to show his love. With this, Shiva knew what he must do. He bowed his head to Sri Ram and made the vow, I will not touch Sati in this body that she now wears. With a firm determination, he stayed consistent to his vow. He was hailed by the heavens for his sacrifice in upholding Dharma. Sati questioned Lord Shiva about his vow, but he did not respond to her. The Lord simply went into samadhi and meditated upon the form of Sri Ram. She guessed that Lord Shiva knew of her lie and thought to herself, I have deceived my Lord. He says nothing of my offense out of respect for me. Through her own divine power, she read his thoughts and realized that he had abandoned her. She was bitterly distressed at heart but said nothing. While Shiva stayed in Tapasya, she continued to live at Kailash, but her sorrows were endless. No one knew of her plight, for she told no one. Thus, making these days seem endless. She fell into a deep depression, focusing on her own sorrows and on her mistakes. She put her hands to Shri Ram and said, "Providence has repaid me for my sins, and all that he has done is fitting. But now, O Rama, I don't think it is right to preserve my life when I am alienated from my Shankar. My Lord, it is said that you pity the humble, and the Vedas have praised you as the remover of distress. Then, with folded hands, I supplicate that this body of mine should be speedily dissolved. Lord, if I truly do love Shiva, and my wifely vow is true in thought and word and deed, then I pray to you, please devise a plan whereby I might speedily leave this intolerable world." In this way, Sati Maa grieved for 87,000 years, while Lord Shiva continued to be in a trance. Finally, she began to hear her Lord chanting the name of Rama. She proceeded to do homage, and Lord Shiva asked her to take a seat. He started telling her the glories of Hari, which she listened to with fixed attention. However, at this time, her father, Raja Daksha, was having a great yagna. All the devatas and great kings were invited. However, he did not invite Shiva or his daughter Sati, and he told her about her father's yagna. Sati became excited about the thought of visiting her father's home, and she wanted to go. But she was still embarrassed by her last transgression, and so she reluctantly said nothing. Finally, she spoke up and told Lord Shiva, "There will be great rejoicing in my father's home, and I would very much like to go. If you would allow it, I would dutifully go and see." The Lord replied, "It would please me also for you to go. However, Daksha has invited all of his daughters except for you. Because of his feelings for me, he has chosen to ignore you. While a person may certainly go to a parent's, a friend, a guru, or even a master's house uninvited, it serves no good to go anywhere that there is a grudge against you." Lord Shiva tried many arguments to dissuade her, but to no avail. Finally, he said, "In my opinion, to go without being invited is not right. However, you may do as you wish." Hearing this, Sati made ready and left to her father's palace. When she reached her father's palace, she was excited to see the splendor that was before her. All the devatas were there, all the kings and great sages, all but Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva were present. She approached expecting a grand reception. Surely there was a mix-up, and they had meant to invite her. However, no one came to greet her. Sati was ignored and embarrassed. Only her mother greeted her kindly, and her sisters with profuse smiles. However, her father ignored her. He never asked her about her well-being or that of Shiva. He was visibly angry to see her, and when they offered sacrifices to Agni, Shiva was left out. Seeing this, she became enraged. Now she understood the wisdom of Shiva's words. How could she have been so wrong? Seeing her rage, Sati's mother tried in vain to pacify her. She thought of the errors of her behavior, about the disrespect to Shiva, and she now realized she could not return to Kailash. In great anger, she proclaimed, "All of you that have disrespected my Lord, soon shall you and my father reap your just rewards. Whenever blasphemy is uttered against the saints, Shiva or Bhagavan, there the offender's tongue should be cut off. If not, you should run away holding your ears. My husband is the universal spirit and the father and friend to the world. He who bears the moon on his jata sits in my heart. Because I have ignored his warning, I shall now immediately quit this body. So saying, she leapt into the sacrificial fire, to the cries and screams of the guests assembled there. In her dying breath, she wished of Hari that she might have devotion to the Lord in every birth. Seeing what had happened, Shiva's servants, who had accompanied Sati, started to destroy the oblations. When Shiva himself heard of the incident, he flew into a great rage. He assumed the form of Virabhadra and punished all in attendance. Daksha too, Sati's father, was destroyed. Because of her wish, Sati was reborn in the house of Himanshala as Parvati, who was eventually married to Lord Shiva. Today's Katha was taken from the Balkan chapter. This has been a presentation of the Hindu Pod. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and rate this episode, since it helps to bump us up in the feeds, which helps others to find the podcast. Please send comments to thehindupod@gmail.com. That's thehindupod@gmail.com. You can text us at 281-804-9616 or just search Facebook for The Hindu Pod. If you live in the Houston area, you can find us on most Sundays at the Sanatan Dharm Mandir for Sunday Morning Satsangh. They are located at 12918 Player Street, Houston, Texas 77045, and are open Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. If you would like to support the pod financially, we are sponsored by HinduHandcrafts.com. That's HinduHandcrafts.com. Please visit HinduHandcrafts.com for Hindu religious-based items such as framed pictures, wall plaques, tapestries, t-shirts, clocks, and so on. They are perfect for puja use and home decor or gifts. Until next time, Jai Shri Ram.